everybody, welcome to Let's Clay! We're gonna finish this teapot now. I pulled up the walls, kind of turbo last time, which you shouldn't do if you're just starting. But now, I think I'm gonna do one more pull, and then we're gonna start stretching it, and then you're gonna make the recessed edge.
Recess was my favorite period.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan. Trying to get my enunciations going.
Okay.
Important.
I mean, that makes sense. I follow.
You haven't seen Anchorman?
No. Man, I was like 10. That was like a rated PG-13 movie. They weren't letting me in.
My parents, for some reason, like my dad was like, "Oh yeah, we should let the kids watch Terminator. They're like 9 and 7." And my mom's like, "Okay, it's PG," because they didn't have R rating. And
What? When?
Like the 80s. I guess it wasn't rated R. It was rated PG for some reason.
What?
Yeah.
Someone dropped the ball.
Because we had like the VHS, like literally from the 80s, so it said PG on it. And so my dad like forgot that there was a sex scene in there. And so like 7 and 9-year-old kids, all of a sudden you see Sarah Connor and John Connor, you know, doing the diddly. And
Birds and the Bees a lot earlier than they intended to be.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna stretch this out into the teapot. I think I'm gonna have. I want to have a really round teapot. It's really round and.
Round is good.
Yeah. So what you're gonna do is you can take your left hand with the sponge, put it inside. You can support it like this, but for me, for the round shape I want, I'm gonna take this plastic flexible rib, and I'm gonna help myself shape it. So you want to get your arm wet if you're gonna be putting it in the cylinder.
Yeah, if your arm is dry and it meets the wet clay, the clay won't form around it well. It'll grip it sometimes and throw it all off center. It's real nasty.
Especially if you're hairy like I am. So right now what I'm doing is I'm pushing out with this left hand, and this rib here is curving to make it the curve that I want it to be. So I'm pushing out, and then I'm just going to move it up.
You'll notice as he's pulling out the shape, the size starts to go down as the clay moves out.
Yeah, the pot's going to get short. It's going to be much shorter than it was because all the clay is moving out. The walls are getting thinner. It has to stretch out, so, you know, it's the whole thing is going to get much shorter.
So
It's a big teapot, man.
Yeah, I think...
I don't know if we should make a teapot with this. I think...
There's too much hype. We got to make an enormous teapot now. It's in.
Okay. We got to make a teapot now. You know, we are men of our word. We will...
Like I said, serving it to the neighbors and Cheerio and Toodle Pip.
Toodle Pip.
Man, this is a big
That's going to be the name of this episode.
Cheerio
or the last,
the last one.
Toodle Pip.
Toodle Pip. This one can be Cheerio.
Okay.
I like this. What would it make more sense for that one to be Cheerio and then the second episode be called And Toodle Pip?
That works. That works.
We're going.
I like your style of thinking, Eddie. So getting it pretty wide, and what you want to be careful of when you're doing this is this area right here. It's called the shoulder. So you don't want your shoulder to be kind of down far low and have this big sloping thing. It just doesn't look as nice. It looks kind of like it looks like when you were throwing it, you messed up and had to move the shoulder.
There's that. Another problem with the shoulder a lot of people will have in the beginning, they'll make the shoulder too thin and the whole size of the pot will just collapse inward.
You've got to be prepared for what you're going to make. So like I left a lot of clay in this middle part here when I was pulling. Like I pulled and left some there and kept going, which is important if you're going to stretch something out. That way when it stretches out, you'll have more even walls and you're not going to get weird thin parts and it's not going to ripple and all that stuff. So I'm going to stretch this up. I'm going to stretch this out just a tad bit more down here. Get it more even, more rounded.
A little bit more rounded. I like it. All right.
There we go. Nice. It's kind of globy. It's getting globy.
It's getting a glowy vibe. I'm digging the glowy vibe.
Little... All right, I think we're good there. So now I'm going to show you how to do the little recess. You know what? I think we're going to need to change the camera angle to show you guys how to do recess things. It's going to be kind of hard for you guys to see my fingers. It's real delicate work. So, showed you guys how to stretch this out. Next episode, we're going... Actually, you know what? Not next episode. Cut.
Hi guys, I'm still here.
Yep, and we're changed the camera angle. Instead of making a new episode, I'm going to show you how to do the recessed edge with my fingers here. fingers. So with the left hand here, you're going to support the rim, and with your right hand, this finger, I like to take two, and I use my middle finger, and you're just gonna kind of push. You're kind of just pushing down on it. You see what that's doing? So pushing down into it, and you're pushing half of the rim down. Create a little ledge on the inside. You see how that's doing that? Yeah. And you don't want the little ledge to be too thin, because then it can crack and all that stuff.
You put the lid on, the lid falls right through, bad things happen.
You also want it to have sort of like a kind of a harsh angle, so you can put a grommet in there, like a seal thing in there. So I can take the rib tool, get the corner of it. It's a nice right angle.
And a perfect 90-degree angle, not too important. Just
Perfection is a myth.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you got to remember.
Ideally, you just want it to be a sharp enough angle that when you put a lid on top of it, making the lid the way that we do anyway, that the lid will sit comfortably and it won't shake around too much.
Exactly. Thank you, Eddie. I could not have worded it better. But that is a very important thing, is that perfection is a myth. There's no such thing as perfect.
Unless you're Eddie, but I mean, no one's going to be me but me.
If you try to be perfect, you're going to fail. Because you can't achieve perfection. You can strive for perfection, but you cannot achieve perfection. That's the one thing you got to remember.
Now, I disagree with what a sensei had told me when I took karate. The lesson he gave me was, what's that phrase? Practice makes perfect? He said that that's not right, because perfect is not a real thing. Practice makes better. And ideally, all you want to do is get better until you're very comfortable with what you do.
Exactly. That's a very good point. It's a good life lesson just in general, you know. So, all right, made the recessed edge, and on the next episode, we will make a spout and we will make a lid for this.
Shaka!
Bye.
Goofy personality.